Good afternoon and welcome to this joint public meeting of the Executive Committee and Compensation Subcommittee of the University of Pittsburgh Board of Trustees. Seeing we have a quorum present, I will call today's meeting to order. This meeting has been duly advertised as a public meeting in accordance with the Sunshine Act and is therefore open to members of the public as observers. Actual participation in the meeting, however, is limited to members of the committee and the subcommittee, and to those invited in advance to take part. This meeting is being streamed on YouTube and is also being recorded. The recording will be made available via the Board of Trustees website at a later date. Before diving into our meeting, we have two housekeeping items. First, I'll ask that the minutes of this meeting reflect that on November 26th, 2024, the Compensation Subcommittee met in executive session as permitted by the Sunshine Act to discuss matters associated with the performance and compensation of the university officers. And second, I'd ask that the minutes further reflect that the Executive Committee met in executive session on December 5th, 2024, as permitted by the Sunshine Act, to discuss matters associated with the performance and compensation of the university officers. This is our first cycle under the revised officer performance evaluation and compensation process. As a reminder, the bylaws provide for a compensation subcommittee, which will review the chancellor's recommendations for compensation adjustments for the non-trustee officers, evaluate the performance of the chancellor, and recommend compensation adjustments to the executive committee for review and approval. I want to thank the following trustees for serving with me on the compensation subcommittee: Dr. Vaughn Claggett, Debbie Gelati, Larry Merlot, and Peter Verischetti. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the Compensation Subcommittee met in executive session to review Chancellor Gable's self-assessment and her evaluation of the covered officers. It's hard to believe Chancellor Gable has only been with us for just over 16 months. Her initial impact has been so great and immediate that it feels like she's been with us for a much longer time. I wanted to share a few highlights from her first year. First, she understood coming in the door that one of the many things the board wanted was a measurable strategic plan, and she delivered one in less than a year. And she didn't just put it on the shelf in a pretty binder to dust off in a few years. She and the team are actively implementing it and beginning to meet its targets already within 9 months of having it approved. I don't think any of us thought it was possible to have such a complete plan in that short period of time. Further, the plan for Pitt 2028 has become the virtual heartbeat of our board meetings, ensuring our agendas are strategically aligned. For example, at our last board meeting, it was inspiring to hear in person from Dr. Rory Cooper regarding the assistive technologies moonshot earlier this month. Second, she has quickly assessed her leadership team and made moves to retain talent both within the team and within the schools and departments. She's filled key vacancies in the university quickly and with talented and diverse individuals with national reputations for excellence in their respective fields. Third, she steered the university through turbulent times over the past year, internally and externally, and handled it all with a steady hand and superb crisis management skills. Higher education is facing numerous headwinds and will continue to. And Chancellor Gable continues to find ways to ensure Pitt emerges from these challenges yet stronger. Fourth, she has integrated herself into our community in a seamless way. People I talk to in the community are delighted to have her and are impressed by how quickly she's become one of the individuals in this region who is most sought after for advice on a multitude of issues. Fifth and finally, she has used our national brand to heighten the position of the university, both nationally and globally. From being a founding member of College Presidents for Civic Preparedness, to being selected as chair of the Fulbright Board. Joan has enhanced Pitt's visibility and reputation in immeasurable ways. She has also helped position members of the leadership team for national service as well. In summary, the Chancellor's performance has exceeded expectations this year. Further, the leadership team met all goals set for 2024. What impresses me most, I know the bar will continue to be raised with each successive year of the Plan for Pitt 2028. In recognition of these accomplishments and so much more, the Compensation Subcommittee recommends the following. Upon the recommendation of Chancellor Gable, a 2.5% merit increase to the base salaries of the university officers holding their positions prior to June 1st. This is the same compensation pool approved by the board in July for faculty and staff. 2, upon the recommendation of Chancellor Gable, extension of the current Deferred Compensation Incentive Program for Senior Vice Chancellor for the Health Sciences, Dr. Anantha Shekhar, for an additional 5-year period. And third, while it was my intent to recommend a 2.5% salary increase for Chancellor Gable, at her request, we recommend that her 2.5 salary increase be instead credited to increase the funds available for the staff's compensation modernization project. This is an incredibly selfless and generous action by Joan, so thank you. A resolution detailing these recommendations was included in your meeting materials. May I have a motion to advance the Compensation Subcommittee recommendations to the Executive Committee for review and consideration?
So moved.
Second.
Having had a first and second, is there a discussion?
Chairperson, I had a quick question just around the market dynamics as it relates to executive compensation in higher education. What are we seeing in the market right now?
Thank you, Salisa. I'll start off with a few comments and then certainly ask for Joan to offer her comments, particularly as it relates to the other covered officers. So my comments will focus primarily on the chancellor and president level that we regularly work to benchmark against and keep ourselves informed as to the market that we're dealing with. I think one of the most significant phenomena has been how short the tenures have become for chief executives in the category. Virtually today, it is somewhere around the 5 to 6 year period, and very short compared to what it was historically. That's number one. Number two, it has come with upward pressure in terms of pricing in the marketplace that we see. And certainly the university is always striving to maintain the highest level of talent that we can in these positions. And you have to be mindful of these market considerations. But with that, I'll ask the chancellor if she has any comments for you relative to covered officers and the experience that she is seeing in the marketplace. Joan?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair and Trustee Barry. And it's similar for the executive level of the administration, where there is competitive retention pressure. This is part of why we track the market so closely and make sure that we're remaining very competitive in how we assess the salaries of our very strong leadership team, and brought that information forward to the board in making our recommendations.
Thank you. I just have a quick follow-up. Is there anything that concerns you most about what's going on in the marketplace and how we're able to retain great talent here?
I think given the dynamics of tenures shortened, our ability to constantly monitor the marketplace and be up to date in terms of compensation figures is a challenge and has a direct impact on an annual basis for ensuring that our officers are being treated in a fair and competitive position in the marketplace. It's changing quickly. And the ability to stay on top of that has become important. And it's one of the reasons why the compensation subcommittee chose to go to market this year to engage a new compensation consultant to support us in these activities. And we are at the final stage of that process right now. And I think it will result in us being able to more quickly access the marketplace and to do an even better job of determining amongst our peer group how we are performing.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Salisa. And I see Trustee Merlot has his hand raised. Larry, please.
Thank you, John. And maybe this is another follow-up question to Salisa's first question, John, because we know that 2025 will be the first full year under the guidance of the Plan for Pitt 2028, which I think your summary was spot on, and we're all very excited about the work that the Chancellor has led with her team. You just referenced the subcommittee initiating a search for a new comp consultant. Can you talk a little more about specifically what goals would we have for a new comp consultant, and how do you anticipate 2025 being different than this past year on executive comp issues?
Very, very good question, Larry, and I'll take it into two parts. And after I'm done, once again, because the Chancellor manages and oversees the other covered officers, I'll certainly permit and ask her to offer a few comments after I'm done. First, in terms of the compensation consultant, as I just expressed to Salisa, having timely information regarding market dynamics is critical to being able to compete in the marketplace. So I think one of the first things we'll go through is defining our true peer group. We last engaged in this activity of looking at compensation philosophy for the university in 2021 and developed what was then, and still today, it stands the test of time, a good compensation philosophy. But I think through updating our view of the marketplace and peer group, we'll also be undertaking a comprehensive review of that compensation philosophy that we then turn around and apply in our oversight responsibilities here. So I would expect this initial time period to be an evaluation of peer group, an evaluation and revision to our compensation philosophy on the go forward. And I think third, we'll be asking them to specifically review and benchmark our agreements and compensation packages as it relates to what we're seeing now in terms of best practices. So not just but what are the elements that are in that. So I would assume 2025, we'll do more than assume. In 2025, we will be doing that. I think in terms of what 25 is likely to look at and look a little differently than 24, it's the full implementation of the management metrics that the Chancellor has developed in the Plan for Pitt 2028 that will be on the table. I know that the Chancellor was utilizing those metrics already in her reviews of covered officers, and that we in turn had the benefit of looking at many of them as it relates to the Chancellor. However, as I stated previously, we are only 9 months into that. 2025, I think as a consequence, will feel much more quantitative than 24, which was more qualitative in some ways. So I think we'll continually be marching forward to be in line with the Plan for Pitt 2028, and the fact that we now have the benefit of scores, dozens of specific metrics assigned to desired outcomes. So, Chancellor, if there's anything you would like to add there, please do.
Just a few things. Totally agree with the chair, and would only add that the covered officers were participants and co-creators of the strategic plan, and I think that's why you saw it flow rather seamlessly into their annual reporting this year. But what was missing is, even though the board was also very active in the co-creation of the plan. They were not necessarily active in the creation of the annual review templates that we used in assessing the covered officers under the plan. So when we brought forward the annual reviews this year using the plan, that was new. And so now we have your feedback. And that will be very helpful as we move forward in the way that the chair described. So that's a big part of the transition process, and we had a lot of very productive conversation about that. So you'll see this robust capacity to be quantitative, both by virtue of the plan clicking along and having a whole additional year of data, and also this iterative conversational feedback loop that you all have been able to provide to us.
Thank you, Chancellor. I see that Trustee Varaschetti has his hand raised. Peter?
Thank you, Chairperson Verbanek. I do not have a question. I just have a comment. You noted several of the achievements of Chancellor Gable and her team this past year, and I agree and echo those impressive achievements. I do want to add, and if you mentioned it, I might not have heard it, but I want to reflect on the last trustee meeting where Chancellor Gable gave her annual report and also spoke to the student successes. And I continue to be proud and very impressed of the success of our students, and that's a compliment also to Chancellor Gable and her team, with us having record highs for 4- and 6-year graduation rates. A record 98% of Pitt graduates had a job or were going to graduate school within 6 months of earning their degree, and just the student awards from Goldwater Scholars to Pickering Fellows and Voyager Scholars. Just Pitt continues to do a outstanding job, and our students continue to do an outstanding job. And again, I think that's a compliment to what Chancellor Gable and her team has done at the university.
Well, thank you, Pete, and thank you for bringing that back into focus for us all. Because oftentimes, as you know, on the board, we're providing our oversight functions and providing governance to the university, and that reminder of the outcomes that comes from all of that and the good work of the chancellor and her team are always good to hear. Thank you. With that, are there any additional questions? Hearing and seeing none, and there being a duly moved and seconded motion on the floor, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. Next, I'd like to now ask for a motion by the Executive Committee to approve the compensation recommendations as advanced by the Compensation Subcommittee. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Having a second, is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signal by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes. On behalf of the board, my sincere thanks to Chancellor Gable and the officers for a very successful fiscal year 2024. It's been a challenging year, and you've helped us navigate it well, all while continuing to make forward progress for our students, their families, and our university. Having said that, is there any additional business to be brought before the Executive Committee or the Compensation Subcommittee? Seeing and hearing none, we stand adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks.